Please listen carefully.
Well, hello, universe. Welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Summers Kristy.
And I'm Kristy Jansen, and we're part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to make it one focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And now we are delivering these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, you can watch us now on YouTube-worthy, but probably not more than just today-worthy podcast.
Yeah.
I don't think I have time to do hair and makeup every day. But anyway, today is Tuesday, November 17th, 2020.
Yeah.
So,
because remember, Friday is our pajama day. So.
Exactly. Friday's pajama day. Well, kind of every day is pajama day for me. But now that we've been doing video yesterday and today, it's actually like full hair and makeup, but it's still like business on top, pajama on the bottom.
Yeah.
It's still COVID leisure. Oh, Kristy, guess what we get to do today?
I don't want you to remind me, but go ahead.
So, as Kristy and I lead the Optimist Daily, we both struggle with something that a lot of leaders, not just women leaders, struggle with, and it's called imposter syndrome. And it's this feeling that you are not worthy of the work that you're doing, that you don't deserve to be the boss, that you're not in charge, that it's all like a ruse. And one of the things that we work really hard at as a partnership team is transparency. Transparency above all else. And so this morning we had this meltdown fest of all the reasons that we're an imposter. And mine included that I was like a secret stay-at-home mom who has a job that she doesn't do well enough at, blah, 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 blah. And I just melted down, and then Kristy melted down too. And then now we've shaken it off and we're ready to like fully step into our shine, right?
Of course. Whatever you say, Summers, you're the boss. You're the boss.
I want to thank everybody who listened to hearing my story yesterday. It was a brilliant time to be able to share it with you. And today it is my honor to be able to ask my partner at the Optimist Daily some inspiring questions, and we can learn a little more about the brilliant, talented, empathic, and persuasive scientific mind that is Kristy Jansen. So, Kristy, how are you today? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do for the Optimist Daily?
Well, at the Optimist Daily, I am the Chief Content Officer, which means that I oversee the editorial content. I try to shape our voice, our perspective. I lead the writing team, and I am the final arbiter on what goes out every day and every week and overall. So that's who I am. I am also a sounding board for you and for the rest of our management team. I work as the librarian. I'm the editor. I try and weave a coherent narrative around all of our solutions, the positivity, the productive possibility that comes out of the morass, which is the internet, which is where we source a lot of our content, right? But to put our spin on it. So that's what I try to do, to bring that to our writers who are bringing me those stories every day. Besides that, I'm a thinker. I try to synthesize the ideas and tap into what's out there in the world so we can respond from the Optimist Daily's point of view.
In the past, you have called yourself and called us a media therapist. Do you want to just add a little bit? Because I love when you coin that phrase, and I love how you tell us that story.
Well, I mean, my background is anthropology and psychology. So, I'm passionate about trying to understand how we all communicate with each other and what it means. I'm inspired by meaning. I'm inspired by human society. And I feel like so much of our time we get narrowly, like our perception of reality is shaped by the media. And that is a real issue. And it's become even more so as we've become addicted to our phones, our devices. We spend more time online. This year, more than ever, we're communicating to the world through our screens. We have limited contact face to face with our family and our neighbors even. So we're getting less of that face to face community based information, and more of that is coming through our online communities. And those things are mediated by serious algorithms that have been not designed with any public interest in mind, but rather with profit and short-term, like how many people are watching, how many people are paying attention, those kinds of things. So that is a concern for me. So the reason I talk about being a media therapist is that I feel like that the media itself, which is how we are often interacting with the world and interpreting the world and being presented to the rest of the world, other than our small inner lives, our domestic lives, our work lives, and the people we actually have face-to-face contact with or Zoom-to-Zoom contact with, maybe. It just needs a little bit of work. It's really, it's depressed, it's anxious, it's freaking out most of the time, right? And so I like to think of the Optimist Daily as kind of that, we're the calm in the storm, we're the center. And that's how I describe myself sometimes. I am that person. I'm the keel of this ship, which is the Optimist Daily. I give it the ballast to keep us on course. And I feel like that's what a media therapist is.
Well, and that kind of leads to, the next question, that how do you do that? How do you lead the editorial team and work with our collaborators to continue to find positive stories in this absolutely crazy landscape?
It is. It does feel crazy, doesn't it? Well, the approach we take is really to look at what's happening and to try to find that optimism that's been drowned out by that sort of the journalistic maxim, if it bleeds, it leads. I think William Randolph Hearst was the one who coined that back in the 1910s or 20s or however long, yellow journalism. But that's been what's guided the profit centers, especially around journalism, right? To keep people, their attention. Now that we have a 24-hour news cycle and you're getting updates on whatever's out there, I feel like it's even being manufactured at times.
Yeah.
Nothing has really changed, but in order to keep people watching, you have to keep telling the story over and over again. So our aim is to sort of refocus, to reframe, to put the emphasis instead of on the problems and the breakdowns, to put the emphasis instead on the solutions and the way that things are being rebuilt, or the resilience that's out there, the inspiration that's out there. And that might mean a crazy new product that, that seems a little out there. It seems bizarre. It seems crazy. But once you hear about it, you go, God, I never thought of it that way. But now that I have, my whole sense of what is possible has shifted, right? And that's exciting to me. We write about not just the disasters, but rather the coming together and the resilience and the resourcefulness of the people who are involved with that. And I think that's really just as essential and important to focus on. And that's what we try to do. Sometimes it also just means kind of turning away because a story is getting way too much coverage and it's just not even worth engaging with it, because fighting about something that really isn't that important maybe is not the way to spend our energy.
We were having a conversation in my own home the other day. I was like, we need to stop fighting about things that aren't going to change.
Yeah.
And instead start focusing on things that are going to change. And the Optimist Daily, the solutions-oriented mindset of the Optimist Daily really does infiltrate our entire existence. Once you get into the meat of this business, that's what you do. It's what you think and feel. But I want to know a teensy bit more about this extraordinary partner of mine. Kristy, tell me a little bit about your background in education and science, and because you are obviously brilliant and everyone who listens to the show just knows that. And I think I want to share and learn a little bit more about what created you. How did you get to where you are?
Wow. Well, that's a very broad question, and I could take
choose one path. Just give me one path in 1 minute of your background in education and science and how that advises your leadership.
Education is kind of hilarious, and we've talked about this before, because I am, in fact, I don't have a traditional education when it comes to education. I believe in education. I think it's one of the most essential things that how we can build human capital is education. But the kind of education that I had was one that really emphasized my curiosity and supported it. As a kid, and I think I've mentioned this before, I did have a chance to travel a lot. My family, which was kind of more of an extended community, we were sailors and we sailed a lot. And so in junior high, I was voted most likely to be absent. That was one of my monikers as a kid in, 8th grade. And then after 9th grade, I stopped going to public school. And I, in fact, tested out of high school when I was 16. So I didn't do high school. I was a high school dropout, although I did get my equivalency, right? And then I was sailing for those years. I was on the boat. I was the chief provisioner. I was working with the kids a lot. I was a resourcefulness specialist. I've called myself. I was the one who, if we needed a ladder, I would be the one to find the phone book and start sourcing it. If we needed a bicycle, I'd go find one from a boat up the dock, right? I'd say, hey, can we borrow that for a few hours? I was that person who tried to
I was waiting for clarification on that. You were the chief resourcefulness, but you didn't steal the bicycles. You just borrowed them.
No. I was all about making those connections and asking if it was okay. And I was always very interested in people in that. And because I was out in the world, and I think as a kid, I was very drawn to science. I always imagined that I would be some sort of a scientist. I think in my 4th grade essays, I was like, I'll either be an astronaut charting the stars, the heavens, or I'll be an oceanographer because I love the ocean and I want to be under the sea and swim with the dolphins, right? I was either going to be the Jacques Cousteau or Sally Ride, right? But then I didn't go to high school, so I never had a proper physics course. I never had a proper chemistry course. I didn't really have that. But what I did have, I was basically in a great psychological experiment. That was what my life was, and very much emphasized human understanding. That was the people who I was living with and growing up with were all very interested in psychology. And then I went on and I was traveling around the world. So I got firsthand to see what different people are like in different places and really feel that basic humanity and also the differences. And one of the things that I feel like that gave me was an appreciation for how just shifting your perspective a little bit can really make all the difference.
I think that experience, and I think your Voyager experience, I think your non-traditional education, I think is sort of acknowledging that you stepped out of high school and said, I'm going to do this differently, and went on to pursue higher degrees. That solutions-oriented mindset, that way of creating relationships and seeing the world as a global experience is a big part of what you bring to this Optimist Daily team. We don't have a ton more time, and I know we're going to go on and on, but I want to, before we get to today's solutions, can I just ask you really what gives you optimism?
Well, the thing that gives me optimism is actually that shift in perspective. One of the things that I've really gotten more and more invested in over these last few years in particular is history. And I have become a student of history, and I have educated myself about history also on a global scale. But by taking that long view and looking at where we have come as a human species over the last, 2 millennia, it's like we really have shifted our consciousness away from how we used to see ourselves in the world. And we do have a sense of ourselves as a single species in a way which we really didn't have. And yes, it's slow and it's hard to change. It takes time to change, but I feel like we are moving towards a more inclusive, more just world. It's just a higher, sort of a better consciousness. That gives me optimism. And also our young people, and seeing them respond with resilience and flexibility and that kind of innate brilliance and courage. Like, it can be done. It will be done. Let's just get together and make a difference. That's also gives me optimism.
Well, everybody says the young people, but I think the young people, it's from the perspective that we sit that gives us optimism. And I love that you see a shift in human consciousness already happening. And you know what? That shift is what we do here at the Optimist Daily. And we love talking to you, Kristy. I could interview you for days, but let's get to today's solutions quickly. If you guys want to learn more about Kristy, by all means, follow her on social. Oh, wait, she's never on social. All right, fine. Just read her amazing thought leader essays that you can catch on the Optimist View. If you're an Optimist Daily emissary on a pretty regular basis, Kristy's voice infuses our organization. Kristy, thank you for what you do. What stories are making you smile today on the Optimist Daily?
I'll go through some of these headlines. We've got a new tool for bear conservation in Canada, which is facial recognition.
I love the bear stories.
Not only does your iPhone recognize your face, but now it can recognize all the different bears that are out there in Canada, and it helps keep track of who's who and how they're doing. Argentinian patients can now access and grow medical marijuana.
Fantastic.
That's great for medical marijuana use. Birth of critically endangered black rhino was caught on camera at the UK Zoo. That's a beautiful little story. It's like the panda that was born earlier this summer. Yep. The world's biggest fur auction house is closing its doors.
I'm very excited to see that. We don't need fashion furs.
Not in the world we live in today.
No.
I mean, if you were a caveman, they're really useful.
Yeah.
But that's not the world we live in today. There's tips on how to build your professional network even without leaving home, and how to stay engaged with your profession. That's important to know. How new right to repair laws are making important car data accessible to drivers.
We've talked about this before, and my husband really loves having diesel cars, but I think a big part of that is he has repair capacity, right? He can fix these old cars, or not even that old of cars. He loves cars that he can fix, and this absence of the ability to repair some of the higher tech, newer cars is just, it's not sustainable. So that's part of what we talk about in making EVs sustainable, is increasing this right to repair.
Absolutely. And speaking of EVs, there's another headline: recycling breakthrough brings EV batteries closer to circularity. That's an important story in terms of transportation. Kim Ng has been appointed Major League Baseball's first female general manager, another gender barrier broken in major sports. And that's quite exciting, actually.
Yep. Ladies, wear your shoes. Glasses everywhere.
And there's a story about how facades and pavements can be used to generate clean energy, a new step in powering our world through the built environment. Also very interesting and innovative. The clean energy revolution. Philippines is now planning to stop building new coal power plants. Again, coal is not the most efficient or effective energy source now, and even more developing economies are starting to turn away from these very, very dirty fossil fuel resources. So I think that's a wrap.
Well, thank you, everyone, listening to my discussion with Kristy Jansen in all of her extraordinary glory. And thank you for listening to the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to continue to share positive solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in this changing world and ensure, like Kristy does, that it is changed for the good. We promise to cover the current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us.
Please consider becoming an emissary on theoptimistdaily.com, and for only $5 a month, or you can be a super emissary or an ambassador. However you can support us, please help support reader-funded independent journalism and be a part of this solution-changing consciousness that addresses our world's biggest challenges with a problem-solving mindset. Let's keep the Optimist Daily free for everyone who needs it, supported by those of us who can. Thank you so much, Summers.
Bye, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
I apologize for being so hesitant. I'm just not very comfortable talking about myself, as you can tell, Summers.
Who is, right?
All right. But
no, we're not editing any of this. Live your truth. Oh, and become an emissary while you're at it.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.